What is up, YouTube? Look what I am sitting in right now. This is a 1970 Chevy Camaro. So I don't know about you, but I think muscle cars are really cool, and I've always thought of possibly owning one myself. I think they look great, the sound of them is amazing, but there's always one problem that I tend to experience when I drive muscle cars. It's this right here. It's that wheel spin and lack of control. So that is why today I'm planning on doing a muscle car build with this Camaro right here, and we're going to hopefully address some of those issues with the wheel spin, so kind of getting the launch improved. We're going to make it look even more mean and aggressive. We're going to get the sound even louder and more badass, and we are going to make this into one heck of a muscle car. So without further ado, let's get into the upgrade center and start putting on some new upgrades to improve this vehicle. So let's see what we got here. Well, it looks like they're offering us a body kit preset. And yeah, well, that looks pretty nice. But I mean, what's the fun in that? We're gonna do the upgrade ourselves here, but try to make it look somewhat like that. Because the problem with these body kit presets is that they cost a lot, and they don't always do exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm sure you guys have experienced the same thing. So I don't think we should pay. I don't know how much this one costs. Let's see. Yeah, like almost 100,000 credits. We're still gonna get to some of these specs, but hopefully we can do it a little cheaper. So to start off, we want more power. And then obviously we want to pair that with better handling, better launch, and just better composure on the road. Now, part of it being a muscle car is that it's not going to be the most composed vehicle, so we have to take that into consideration as well and make sure we don't take away any of the standard characteristics of a muscle car. So let's see what we can do with the intake. We got plus 5 horsepower, plus 7. And if you look at this, I don't think we need to do a race intake because that doesn't improve it pretty much any more than the sport intake does. So we'll just go with the sport intake. Let's go to intake manifold and throttle body. Let's see. So the sport one increases pretty much just acceleration. Whereas the race one increases more. Let's see. So there's actually a bigger difference between these two than there is between the stock and the sport. So we will go with a race intake manifold. For carburetor, let's see what we got here. So it looks like we're going to increase acceleration. So the race one is going to decrease some of the other aspects of this vehicle, so we just will go with a sport carburetor. Ignition, let's see what we got here. Street ignition, that doesn't do much. Sport doesn't do much either. So it looks like none of these really do much, so just to kind of stick with, I mean, I guess we can try to increase the power a little bit, and this one's not too expensive, so we'll just go with the sport ignition. Exhaust, this is a really important one because we want this car to be loud and aggressive, so let's see what we got here. For sport exhaust, that increases quite a bit, actually. And for this one, 2,000 versus 1,350. Yeah, because we want to do this as efficiently and inexpensive as possible. If you notice, the race exhaust only increases it by what, like 4 horsepower, and it doesn't actually change any of our numbers up there. There's a bigger difference between the stock and the sport, so we will go with a sport exhaust. Now let's go to camshaft. Stock cams and valves, okay, that's what we got now. Let's see what this does. So this increases it quite a bit, and so does this. So this is pretty interesting. This goes up 70 horsepower versus 35. Yeah, I'm impressed with this, and you know what? It's only 1,000 more, so we will go with a race cams and valves. That should help out the power quite a bit. So now we're going to go to the valves here. Let's see what we got. So sport, that increases it. That increases pretty much everything by a little bit, by 6 horsepower. And if you notice, this is 9 horsepower, so it increases it by 3 horsepower, and none of the numbers actually changed. So might as well save ourselves 1,000 credits and just go with these sport valves. So displacement, let's see what we got here. Street engine block, that increases just acceleration, and it gives us 5 horsepower. Sport ignition block doesn't change much more, and it's 1,000 more. And neither does the race engine block, and that is 2,000 more than the sport one. So just to save our money here, we could just go to a street ignition block, because if you notice, these ones just increase the horsepower, but not enough to actually do anything to our specs. So we will do a street engine block. So pistons and compression, let's see what we got here. Well, they only give us one choice, so we will go with these upgraded pistons here. Because you don't want the car to be lopsided. You don't want, like, you know, a bunch of race or sport components and then, like, 1 or 2 stock things. Unless, you know, it kind of just depends, but those pistons they play an important role in the engine. So now we got oil and cooling. Let's see what we got here. Street oil and cooling. Well, that doesn't really help anything, actually. It looks like it just adds a bunch of weight. So because we don't want to add any unnecessary weight or do any harm to the performance of this car, we will just leave this stock for right now. So flywheel, we won't do that either. So those are the, at least for now, the upgrades that we have for the engine performance of this vehicle. So now let's go to platform and handling. So we definitely want to upgrade the brakes on this car. So we got stock brakes. Okay, let's take a look at this. So street brakes increase efficiency by 9%. Sport brakes, they increase quite a bit more, actually. 15% for braking, as well as benefiting the rest of the car with its performance. And let's see what we got here, 18%. So, you know, brakes are really important. So I say we, you know, and it's not that much more. It's about 600 credits more. So we might as well just go with the race brakes. That should really help the brakes out. So let's see, springs and dampers. Well, we got stock, street. Okay, so that actually hurts the acceleration and launch. This one, the race ones, or sport, I mean, excuse me, actually decrease the launch by 0.1. And the race ones decrease the acceleration by 0.1 as well, although it does increase handling and braking. But again, muscle cars are more designed for like drag racing and whatnot. Not that like we have too many drag racing strips on this game, but for realistic sake, we want to also kind of, you know, what? But because we want to keep kind of the max power from this car and, you know, retain its characteristics as a muscle car, we are just going to give it, probably just stick with the stock springs and dampers for now. So we'll come back to that in a little bit if we need to. So front anti-roll bars, I guess it's extra stability when cornering. This could be something that we could consider without having to, you know, lower the ride height. And, you know, this still helps with handling. And look, it helps with handling, acceleration, launch, braking. So these might be a helpful thing to invest in. Obviously, we're not going to go for the race ones because that doesn't improve enough to make it worth that price. So we could go with Sport front anti-roll bars, and we could just stick with the Sport rear anti-roll bars. Chassis reinforcement and roll cage. It does actually increase quite a bit, although it does add a bit of weight. So, I don't know. Let's see what we got here. This increases our performance quite a bit, actually. Handling's better, acceleration's better, launch is better, braking's better. So, the only difference is this one you can see the bars, and this one you cannot. So, let's see. I personally don't like the roll cage on the inside because I think it blocks your view when you want to have the interior view. So we'll just go with the Sport chassis reinforcement and roll cage. And although it does add weight, we can do a weight reduction kit on this car. So let's see what they offer. You can take off 89 pounds, and that just helps acceleration by 0.1. We can do Sport or race weight reduction. So we got minus 312 and minus 668 pounds, and they're about 1,000 credit difference. It does help our launch quite a bit, so I say we just go for the race weight reduction kit. That should really help out the vehicle. So now let's go over to drivetrain and see what we got here. Clutch, let's see. Street clutch, that increases by a little bit. It's only 750 credits. And it decreases our shift time by 0.05 seconds. We got sport clutch and race clutch. Now, it doesn't do enough to where I think this is a big deal, so we could just go with probably a street clutch and make it a little, just spend a little bit less money. So transmission, let's take a look at this. We have a stock transmission now. Street transmission increases our speed by quite a bit, if you notice that. And it's only 800 credits. Sport transmission also does a little bit of, it has positive effects on the rest of the car as well. But the race transmission doesn't do enough to justify spending that much, so we will go with the sport transmission. And driveline, let's see if we can get maybe a lighter one. It's less weight. Yep, minus 2.4 pounds, minus 9 pounds. Again, why would we spend money on the race driveline if it doesn't drastically change the components of this car? So we will just go with the street driveline. And what do we got here? Differential. That doesn't do anything positive for our vehicle, so I don't find it necessary to do for this car. But again, if you have a preference, it is up to you. So let's go back here and get new tires and rims possibly. So let's see, stock tire compound, street tire compound. Well, if we look at just what the street tire compound does, that greatly improves the performance of this vehicle. And sport tire compound does even more. Look at that. Race tire compound does quite a bit as well. Even the rally tire compound increases it quite a bit, but look, this isn't a race car, so we can just go with the sport tire compound. I think that should keep the bill down a little bit, as well as make it more of a, give it the characteristics of a muscle car. This isn't going to have those race tires on it, so I think the sport will be enough for this. So rims and okay, so we did the tires. Now we got to look at rims and appearance. So we'll keep the rims the way it is for now until we figure out a design we want to do for this car, because I'm thinking sort of like a hot rod look to it. I think that'd be really cool. So we'll look at that in a second. Let's just do aero and appearance real quick. So we've got the front bumper. Well, let's see what they offer us here. Well, that does more harm than good to the specs of this car, as well as I don't really like the look either, so we'll just not do that. I think this one looks perfectly fine. We look at rear wing. We can upgrade to this one, which hurts our actual top speed, so I don't see why that's necessary. In fact, I like the way this rear wing looks anyway. And then we've got the hood, so let's see what we got here. So they give us the street hood here. That looks pretty cool. Another street hood. That looks really nice, actually. I like the way that looks. And let's see what this one is. That looks really cool. Personally, I like this one the best. But again, all of them take off 7 pounds. They all do the same as far as how it benefits the car. It's more of a matter of looks when it gets down to this. So I am going to go with this one because I think that looks really cool. But again, whatever your preference is, that is fine. So now we've got the way this car looks. I think this car is starting to look really awesome. How much we can do an engine swap on this car. The only one that actually does any good for the full performance of it would be this 6.5 liter V12 engine. Yes, it is 50,000 credits, so this is kind of an optional part of the build. You're still going to have about 400 horsepower on this car if you just stop right now. We're going to go ahead and do that swap on this car. So now we have a V12, and look at that. It is only at 66,000 credits, and that is quite a bit less than the body kit preset. So let's buy this. Real quick, we're going to add a design to this car and make it look like a hot rod. That's kind of the look I'm trying to go for here. So let's paint the car real quick. I think we could go with black because I got an idea for what I want to do with this car here. So we'll just save that to the car. And alright, so let's apply decals real quick. So we'll do the right side first. We'll try this blue one here. Oh, lock design. Alright. So let's see. Ooh, this looks really cool. Let's just lower the size. Alright, there we go. I'm thinking this looks really cool. And that's just a good base design in my opinion. So I think we will go with this for now. Alright, and we are out of the festival. So I might do an elaborate design in the future, but I kind of like the simplicity of just the single blue flame on each side right now. So we're going to just take it on a quick test drive around Surfer's Paradise and see how it performs. And then that will probably be the end of our video. So here we go. Quick launch. So we are actually going to go down to the 6.2 liter V8 engine swap. So I don't know if you noticed, but when we did that acceleration, it sounded just like a Lamborghini Aventador, and that is not what we want. So I did not expect that. So we're going to go back down to a V8 because I know that will give us the sound that we're looking for. So I apologize for that. I actually ended up spending more than I was planning on, but that should hopefully make this sound like an actual muscle car. I didn't realize that it was that type of engine. So let's hear that sound now, the proper sound of a muscle car. That is what I'm talking about. I love the V8 sound. So now let's try out our acceleration here. And you know what? It's not as fast as the V12, but this is definitely a step up from the stock engine and specs. So I think this upgrade is totally worth it. It makes the car more enjoyable to drive. It makes it a little more composed on the road, but doesn't take away its characteristics as a muscle car. So that is going to do it for today's video. Like I said earlier, this car will appear in tons of more videos. We got a lot of stuff planned for it anyway. We're going to do some races and some online challenges with it and whatnot. So thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I am Matt5 Gaming 365. See you later.